And action.
Cash or credit?
Jesus Christ. That's the mirror thing. There we go. You never bled before?
This guy.
Bring up, maybe she has a drinking problem.
Yo, this joint is crazy, bro.
And action. Happy hump day, everyone. This is the BTS and breakdown of my recent short film, Cash or Credit. And we're gonna flip our leg the way it's gonna stay. So I came up with the concept for this film based off personal experience. Not like the murder part, but everything else. I remember as a kid getting left at the checkout line was a pretty frequent occurrence, and all I wanted in those scenarios were just to get out of that moment. And I knew it'd be like a pretty boring film if like that's all that happened is a kid was left at the checkout line, he was nervous, then his mom comes back and pays and everything's fine. Which in, you know, real life, that's how it was. Like nothing was ever wrong, like nothing ever bad was gonna happen if my mom didn't come back, you know, before she was done scanning the items or whatever. But you know, in my mind as a kid, it was a big deal, and I wanted the audience to feel, you know, the way that I felt as a kid in those moments. And so I knew I needed to kind of raise the stakes in some way, and so I was thinking about how I'd do it, and then I kind of had the idea of like, what if he kills her? And I think that got the point across well. Obviously this is not the greatest thing ever written or made, it's aggressively mediocre, but what it did do was allow me to be able to experiment doing something narrative and see if, you know, I have maybe the skills to pursue doing narrative in the future. We need to do, where's the other, is that it?
Yeah, I have 20.
So getting into pre-production, I did all my pre-production in Milanote. It's the easiest way, I think, to kind of just throw all my ideas out there and easily be able to change things, share it with people, and kind of create this really pretty, you know, packageable way to share my ideas with everyone who's going to be involved. I think the pre-production on this short actually took me about a month to do, between locking down a location, sourcing props, costumes, actors, writing the thing. There was a lot of components that went into it, so it took me some, and I've never done anything narrative, so it took me some time to kind of get all my ducks in a row. But I would say the time that I spent in pre-production was highly worth it, because basically by the time we got to shoot day, I had the entire film done. I knew my music, I knew my sounds, I knew my shots, everything going into it. I knew exactly what we needed to get, when we needed to get it, how we needed to get it. You know, in the grand scheme of things, I'm super new to filmmaking, so I don't have this giant Rolodex of, you know, solutions and ideas to get my way out of problems that someone who's a more veteran at this has. And so, you know, doing this intense pre-production allowed me to be able to kind of find these problems and fix them before they became problems on set. On set, I'd have 5 minutes to solve it, whereas, you know, fixing in pre-production, I have a month. So for me, I think that was vital to my success on this, or at least getting it done. The one aspect of pre-production I feel like I hit the hardest was production design and kind of things that were in front of the lens. Over this past year, I've been incredibly fortunate to work with a bunch of really, really talented filmmakers on a lot of their projects. And one thing that I've kind of, you know, found as the common denominator between all of them is that their production design is off the charts on every single project. And so I really wanted to try to incorporate that into my project this time, because that's something that I have definitely been lacking in previous projects. And I think that's honestly what separates, you know, I mean, there's obviously, you know, skill, talent, all that stuff, you know, 10 years plus experience. But I think that's a big separator between work that looks more novice versus, you know, higher end is their production design, their production value. And so that's something that I really wanted to focus on in this short film. And so I decided on this project, you know, I'm really gonna invest in my production design, my location, my wardrobe, just everything that goes in front of the lens, my actors. Like, I really wanted to make sure that was all dialed in. You know, I didn't really care as much about what camera or lens I was shooting on, which, you know, in the past, that's always like the first thing I'm thinking about is like, what camera, what lens, like, you know, what is the nicest, most expensive camera I can get on this? And that was honestly like the last thing on my list this time. Like, just looking through a couple of the shots here, I feel like what really kind of brings these, you know, together is the production design and the color palette, which that was also another first for me this time, was kind of defining a color palette before going into the project. And I can kind of explain how I did that here. So what I did was I went on Shot Deck, and on Shot Deck I, you know, searched for my location, which was grocery store, nighttime. And then I just kind of scrolled through all of the frames here until I found one that I'm like, okay, this kind of looks like, you know, what I want my project to look like. And then I clicked on it, And then as you can see here, there's like a bunch of colors down here. And then I kind of just used all of those colors and the color in the frame, and I just, stuck to those. So that's what I did for this. And you can kind of see, if we look at this shot versus, I'll pull up one from the film here, they look a little similar with their colors. And I think that, added to the overall look and production design of this film. So the final kind of aspect of pre-production here I want to talk about, and this is not really pre-production, but it's a part of it, is the budget. So the budget for this, I spent give or take $4,000, which, being fully transparent, it's a lot of money for me. That's not, I don't just throw that around easily. But this is something that I really wanted to put money into because, there's the saying that no one's going to hire you to do work that they haven't seen you do. So, I want to do more narrative-based stuff, and to do that, I need to have narrative work to show to people. So it's investing in myself, and I think that, the return is worth the price that I paid for this. Something that definitely did scare me a little bit, and something that's kind of, put me off from investing this much money in projects before, is the fact that, like, what if it doesn't turn out good? And that was a thought going into this, like, it could fail and it could result in me having nothing to show for it. Kind of how I rationalize this with myself is that, even if it fails, I have learned a very, very expensive lesson. And the fact that it was so expensive, it's probably going to stick in my mind. So, it's kind of, you get something positive, I guess, out of it either way. Either, you get this beautiful piece of work that you can show off and use to get yourself more work, or, you lose a ton of money, and the horror from losing that money makes you really remember whatever that mistake is that you made, and now you won't make it again. So either way, kind of a win-win. At least that's how I rationalize it with myself, to put out this much money for doing it. But I think it was worth it, and I'm absolutely going to do it again, and I'll probably invest even more money next time. So after about a month of pre-production, shoot day finally arrives, and I brought in a crew of absolute killers, some of my favorite people to work with in the industry. Great people. I love working with them. And it just makes it so much easier when the people you're working with are your friends. Making shit's hard, and, there's gonna be tense times on set always. There's unplanned stuff always. You can't get around it. So going through it, it's much better to have someone you're friends with, you can joke around with, make dick jokes with, than someone that, you can't stand to be around. Touching quickly on the camera package, we shot this on the Pocket. No, it's not a Pocket anymore. The Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K full frame. There's not a ton of thought that goes into the selection of this package. Mainly it was just because there was this like shelf in the wide shot that I didn't want there, so I needed to be closer to the counter. But I owned at the time a Pocket 6K, the Super 35 version. And with that camera, to get the width of the shot that I wanted, I would have had to go on like a crazy wide angle lens, which I didn't like. I wanted a little more compression in the wide shot, and I couldn't have that without having the shelf in there on my 6K, so I decided to rent the 6K full frame because it was the cheapest full frame camera that I could find, and it allowed me to get a little more compression on that wide while still not having that distracting shelf in there. Lensing wise, we used a photo lens. It was the Leica 24-70 2.8 zoom. On the front of my lens, I used 1/4 of black satin. I just like the look of it. Kind of doesn't make it feel as clinical. I prefer it to Pro Mist. I think Pro Mist makes things feel a little bit murky, and I think this kind of gives you that kind of, removes that artificial sharpness but doesn't make it feel murky, if that makes sense. Also for this project, I did develop my own monitoring LUT or shooting LUT. I don't know what the correct phrase is to call it, but I knew I was going to do like a film emulation in print on this in post, and because that's like way different than the Rec 709 that kind of you can get just from your camera, I knew that I wanted to kind of monitor with it in production, so I could kind of base my lighting around what that final output, or at least the world of final output, would be. This is something that I'm absolutely going to continue to do, whatever the kind of grade is that I'm going to go for. It really helps me to not overcomplicate my lighting, because I feel like a lot of the time, because I'm just looking at like a Rec 709 image or Rec 709 conversion on my monitor on set, like it doesn't look exactly the way that I'm expecting it to in post, because the grade obviously is going to make it look better or more polished. And without seeing that there, I sometimes get a little nervous. I'm like, this isn't looking right. Like I need to add more lights. Like clearly I'm doing something wrong, and I just way overlight things that, just aren't necessary. And one thing that I found with having this monitoring LUT on set was that I used like a third of the lights because, you know, seeing what I was gonna get, you know, or at least the world I was gonna get in when I had, you know, my grade on there, you know, I knew exactly what I needed to add lighting wise, and I wasn't worried that I wasn't adding enough because I, you know, I was already feeling like I was in that world of where I wanted to be. Now, I'm by no means a colorist or know anything about coloring properly, but if you want to see a video on kind of how I developed my film emulation look LUT for this, let me know and I'll make one. So like I was just talking about, we kept the lighting very simple for this project, mainly for two reasons. One, I, you know, realized with the, you know, LUT that I had on there that I didn't need to overcomplicate my lighting, and two, we did not have time to overcomplicate lighting. We had about 6 hours to shoot, including wrap in and wrap out. And we had well over 40 shots that we needed to get, most of with dialogue. So it was a lot to get done in a short amount of time. So I kind of knew going into it that having a super built-out lighting setup was just not going to be possible if we wanted to get everything done. Pretty much our lighting bible for this was diffuse overhead, the fluorescence in the ceiling with a 4x4 of quarter grid, wrap it with an F22C, and then neg the hell out of the the camera side. Then use a tube light with one of those foam noodles on it for a hair light, kind of just to separate them from the background. And that was it. That was literally all we did for every single shot. I mean, there was slight different flavors and variations of this, but all of those things were pretty much a staple in every single shot that we did. Is the lighting perfect? No. Not even close, but it was good enough and it allowed us the time to get all the shots we needed, which, you know, no matter how pretty a shot looks, if it stops you from getting half of them, you don't have a film. Oh, one other thing that was super helpful during our production here was these headsets by Hollyland that our sound guy Juan nicely brought for us to use. I don't know what they're called, but they were so incredibly helpful. It basically just allowed us to like communicate with all of our key people without having to like scream all over the place. And, you know, sets are already like kind of a hectic environment, so like add that with like people screaming on top of each other, it adds to the chaos, it adds to stress, it doesn't help anything get done. So having these on there, it made our set so much calmer. And just, you know, having everyone be connected was a major benefit on getting things done on time and fast, especially with the time constraints that we had. So super, super helpful piece of gear. Honestly, might pick up a set for myself just because of how useful they were, and I don't really want to do another shoot without them. The final thing I want to kind of touch on here in this production section are mistakes that I made throughout this. And I feel like this is important to talk about because, you know, as great as it is to show off the things you did well, it's just as important to talk about your shortcomings and your mistakes. Mistakes are expected and they're welcome. That's how you grow, it's how you learn. But one specific mistake that I made that like really still sticks with me and like haunts me a little bit is I entirely messed up the boy's eyeline. I don't know if you caught that at all. I think I did an okay job cutting around it. I had to cut out an entire scene because of it, which that sucked because there was some cool dialogue in there, but it is what it is. Nothing I could do about it. I didn't realize till I got home and was starting to put it together, and I put the boys shot and the cashier shot, you know, next to each other, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my God. And it's just kind of this soul-crushing moment, just you know, seeing like, did I just ruin this entire film? And I think the thing that haunts me the most about it is that it's such an easy mistake to fix. It was literally just like, hey, look a little over this way, and then it was fine. But I didn't catch it because I was wearing so many hats on the day, which is not an excuse. It's just the reality of where I'm at in my career. You know, I have to wear multiple hats on the sets that I'm on a lot of the times, and that, you know, requires me to be thinking about multiple different things that I necessarily wouldn't be if I was just doing one role. But the kind of thing that I would, you know, want people to take away from this is that, you know, when you hit record, when you say action, your entire 100% of your focus needs to be on what is being captured on that camera. Like nothing else can be thought about in that moment other than what, like, is this performance good? Is my framing good? Is my eyeline good? Because at the end of the day, that's your film. What's being recorded is your film, and it doesn't matter what, you know, fires you need to put out next or where you're moving to or what color shirt this person should be wearing. None of that matters if what you're capturing isn't good. Shot of the day, soup on the counter. It's been a long day. Excited to wrap this and get into the editing, so hope this turns out
The
okay.
martini shot, more like the Campbell soup shot.
Creating new terms.
Brother, this guy's
So now moving into post-production. Post-production on this was honestly pretty simple just because of the fact that, you know, I had such a thorough pre-production, and I knew, you know, exactly what shots were going where, because, you know, I had a pretty detailed storyboard, and as you can see here, the storyboard matches up pretty well to what the final film is, minus the section that I kind of had to finagle a little bit because of the eyeline fiasco. But overall, it was really simple to put together. The stuff that really took a long time and that I kind of really want to touch on here is the sound design and the color. So first, kind of touching on sound design, I've learned from my mentors that sound is equally, if not more important than the video that you're capturing. It really helps to just kind of be able to build out that three-dimensional world, and without it, like, it just falls flat. Like, you know, I'll play a little clip here from my short so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. So here's it with the sound.
You got me there.
And here's the same thing without the sound. Like, it still looks nice. It falls flat because there's none of that, you know. There's so much life to it that's brought from the sound. So I spent a lot of time focusing on sound design here. The way that I did it was I watched my whole thing through, and for each shot, I wrote down a list of, you know, what sounds I felt like should be being heard then, what sounds that I had recorded on set from, you know, my amazing sound mixer Juan, what sounds, you know, did I feel like I needed to amplify, what sounds just were not there that I felt like I should add that would bring texture or, you know, add, you know, some sort of feeling to the piece. When that was all said and done, I had a list of about 600 plus sounds, and then I went through, added those all in, and then, you know, once I had that all done, I sent it to Juan, because he is, you know, a wizard at sound, and I was like, hey man, you know, I just finished mixing this. Obviously, I'm not a sound mixer. Please let me know, you know, what you think about this and how I can improve it to make it sound better. And he got back to me and was like, hey, would you want me to mix this for you? And I was like, yes, please. That would be amazing. And I didn't really know what he was going to do to it. I still don't really know what he did to it, but it absolutely made it 1,000 times better. He really, what he said he was going to help with was kind of just to make it feel like the sounds were coming from different places in the world and kind of feel like full. I'll put his Instagram somewhere up on the screen here. Go follow him, hire him. He is an absolute master at his craft and will make your work 1,000 times better. And the final thing we're going to chat about here today is the color. Again, not a colors. Don't know if what I'm doing is correct, but this is how I did it. I think it looks pretty nice. I did kind of, you know, a crude film emulation and print to it. I did that on the timeline level, and then on the clip level, I balanced each individual shot to kind of match all of the, you know, each other. And then I used power windows to kind of shape the lighting a little bit more and to kind of draw your eye to certain parts of the frame here. We can look at one of the shots here and I'll show you. So here we have with the film emulation off, on, then we have our power windows off, on, and then we have, so one other fun thing that I did do in the color, or at least I think it's fun, is I wanted the lens to feel like it had a little more character to it. And so to do that, what I did was, because the lens was pretty clean that we were shooting on, is I added some like barrel distortion, and then to the edges I added a little bit of a blur and vignette, so it kind of just makes it feel a little bit more funky. That's what I did. I think it looks nice. Let me know if you have any tips on how I can improve this grade. So kind of wrap this all up here, because I've definitely been talking for way too long. Making shit is really hard. You know, find people that have similar goals to you or at a, you know, similar space in life, or just want to help you out, and create shit with those people. It's hard, but it's so rewarding. And, you know, I'm super excited to keep making projects this year and to post them on here and you know, kind of see the journey of my career unfold. The thing I think I'm the most proud of about this entire thing is that it's done. I finished it. I took an idea and I made it real. It made me really excited to keep doing this, and I'm excited to keep doing more of these projects. I'm gonna go now. I don't really know how to end this, but if you have any questions, let me know. I'd love to be able to help you in any way that I can, and I'll see you next week.